Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to People in Force. Today we have a very special guest. He's a designer, he's a force enthusiast, he's a force advocate, and has contributed a lot to the force community all over India. And it's our absolute pleasure to invite Mr. Raghavendra Kamath, also known as Raghu, to today's live. Raghu, hi.
Hi, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks, Abraham, for conducting this interview.
Yeah, sure. Raghu, you're actually the first non-technical person to actually come to live on our this entire series of online talks and stuff by Student Developer Society.
Yeah,
And
that's great to hear.
Raghu is actually we tried to get Raghu for our designer fest last year, but due to a few scheduling issues, he couldn't make it. He was
Yeah,
actually we actually want to get him for so long, and it's finally we got to do it through this.
yeah. Thanks to lockdown, we can do it online.
Yeah, sure. So, Raghu, to start up with the questions, as every other interview, I'd like to know about your origins. Like, from where are you? What is your
Yeah,
background? Your education? So, could you tell us a few bit about it?
yeah. My name is Raghavendra Kamath. I live in Mumbai right now, I'm an illustrator and designer. I have done Bachelor in Fine Arts from Sir J.J. Institute of Applied Art, Mumbai. And from 2014, I have been working like completely in by using FOSS tools. So I don't use Adobe or Windows for my work. Yeah. Yeah, I have a small studio. We are two or three people working, and everyone uses only FOSS tools to do the design work and artwork.
So, Raghu, how was your beginning as an artist? Like, were you like in drawing and stuff from like a young age and all?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to do aeronautical engineering, but for some reason, later stage I didn't want to pursue that field. I always I always do something, and I participated in drawing competition, etc. When I was in high school. So I thought maybe I can pursue this direction in my career. So later I got to know about the art college in Mumbai, and then uh, just like um, I just uh, at a whim I just entered the entrance exam for that college, and I got the entry. So yeah.
Right, right. So, when did you? So, were you actually, like from the beginning days, were you into digital, artwork and digital illustration stuff, or were you actually a pen and paper person, ink and paper person?
No, actually, I didn't get computer until I was in the fourth year of my degree. So it was around 2009 or something. It's a bit late, I know. Prior to that, I had used computers, but it was only during class, like during the lab assignments and such that. I didn't own any personal computer prior to that. Um, in the beginning, it was a bit tough for me to switch from traditional to uh, digital. I didn't get the concept and all, but it was later got used to it. So in the beginning, I only drew by hand, and everything was traditional. It was the part of the curriculum was also traditional. We didn't get any lab assignment until the fourth year, and that's when I got the personal computer at home. So yeah.
Right. So, right now, after using both mediums, do you have a preference, or do you see value in both mediums?
Actually, I like digital a lot because it saves a lot of space for me. Where I used to live, there was no space for all the paper and to keep the painting to dry and stuff like that. So when I switched to digital, it was actually very liberating. But right now it depends on the client and the type of style that I want to achieve. If if the project demands some traditional looking drawings or some traditional looking artwork, then I use traditional medium and then scan it and then continue to uh, do the post processing on digital platform. So it's a mix actually, but I like digital more than traditional. It has become kind of a habit, so you can't take separate digital nowadays.
Right. So, how was, how did you come into FOSS? How did you come into the FOSS tools? Did you start using them in college?
No, earlier I used to use the first software that I used learned was Corel Draw, because everyone was learning Corel Draw. So I got into a class and I learned Corel Draw, then Photoshop and like that. For from 2009 to 2014, I was using proprietary software, Windows and stuff like that. I also had Adobe a subscription for Adobe CC. Then they started to do some weird things like charge double on my credit card and stuff like that happened. Then I read a post from David Rivo. He's an artist who uses free software to draw comics and stuff. So his post convinced me that I can make a switch. Prior to that, I knew about free software because my sister is a software engineer, and she she had shown me at Ubuntu and stuff like that. But I was not sure if it will work for my workflow. But after reading his post, and I started to make the switch because I wanted to get out of Adobe's this like uh, Adobe's monopoly or whatever you say. Like I was really angry at them because at one point of time they started charging me twice, and the application had some glitch or something, and it showed that I had not subscribed to their software, and I couldn't open my uh, files, and I missed some deadline. So I was really angry, and I was trying to find alternatives. So one thing led to another, and I found the alternatives. Then after, fortunately, these alternatives had uh, uh, you can install them on Windows also. So you don't have to switch like you don't have to make the switch to Linux to use them. So on Windows, I try to use them and try to see how I can work. I made sure everything was converted to open format. Like all the PSD files were converted to either GIMP's XCF format or KRA. Then after 1 month of this exercise, I finally made the switch. Later, then I realized that if I'm using everything, like every software that I use is free software, then I need to change my OS also. So from there, I uh, dished Windows also. So yeah, so it was around November or October 2014. So yeah, around that time I made the complete switch to free software.
How did you feel about this whole, philosophy of free software and everything? Like the first time you heard it from your sister.
Uh, Actually, she was also not like she was also new in this area, and I tried to read a bit more about it, and I was really surprised that how can you give something for free without any expectation of anything in return. So I tried to read a bit more about it, and I tried to see how if there are any other artists who are following this philosophy. And I really like the philosophy. So after the initial months, I started to introspect. Like if I'm using this, then it is better for me to contribute also. So then I started to report bugs and get more and more involved in this field. So yeah, it was liberating to see the other side and see the completely opposite paradigm of what you're used to. So yeah.
Yeah. So, How is the okay? How hard was the shift? Like you're primarily using all these proprietary tools, but then you went ahead and started using just the tools on Windows, and you installed another operating system. So how was the journey? Like this journey? I mean, you are actually like you're not a computer science student. You are not actually taught to do all these things, like installing operating system and all. So how was this journey?
Yeah, I had heard about GIMP earlier, but from what I've heard, it was not really a nice review about it. So I hesitated to even download it or install it earlier. Like this is prior to the switch or prior to me getting angry over Adobe. Later, then I installed it, and it was very alien. Like I didn't understand, but everything you need to relearn everything, and you need to try it with an open mind. If you want a one-on-one, like one-to-one clone of what you're used to, you're not going to get it here. So I understood that from the beginning that this is something else, and I need to completely forget every concept that I had in mind, and look into this from a new perspective. So that helped me, and it was not that hard, because I was not like in 2015. It was already like 5 years or something for me using digital. So it was not that like I was using something for 10s or 20 years, and suddenly you're going to give me something different. So it was easy for me. I don't think anybody will find it hard, because the concepts are the same, the underlying concept are the same. You just need to find your way around the UI and stuff like that. If something is done in one step in Photoshop, it will be two steps in GIMP, or it can be other way around also. Something can be easy in GIMP, it can be really hard in Photoshop. So both software have their own pros and cons. So it depends on your mentality when you're trying to get into it. So if you go into it like, I want this. Oh, where is the save button? Oh, how can I do this? This software doesn't have. If you go into it with a negative mentality, then it will be hard for you. You won't be switching anytime soon if you go into it with a negative mentality. The switch was easy. The files were file format are supported, so it's not that hard to make the switch. You just have to convert your resources, patterns, swatches, or any texture or any other thing. You have to save it in format that is good for GIMP or Krita or whatever. So yeah, layers are layers, blending modes are blending modes. So there is no difference in concepts. Yeah.
Right. So could you like just explain the various tools that you use in your studio, like on a daily basis?
Yeah, we use Inkscape for doing mock-ups, designs, graphic design stuff. We use MyPaint and Krita for doing MyPaint for sketching, and Krita for doing artwork. GIMP is used for like used less actually. It is used for doing post processing work. If there is any lady in the ad, we make ad. Basically, we make advertisement. We make illustrations and design for advertisement. So if there is any lady in the used in the artwork or something like that, we have to retouch her face or photo, and we use GIMP. But it's becoming less and less. We more or less are dependent on Inkscape and Krita. And then if you have to send the file for print, then we arrange everything in Scribus. So Scribus is a digital publishing desktop publishing software. Yeah, it works like, it's not that great, but it works well to collate and to make the layout and to send the PDF file to the clients. So we send. Then there are other softwares like Image Magic. It's a command line software, but it helps in making batch processing and etc. Yeah.
So do you have like someone who is like tech support for you in your studio?
No, we are our own tech support. So whenever we get like we get stuck due to some system problem, we try to do it the hard way, Google or search, and then uh, solve our problem by ourselves. But usually it doesn't happen because we are now used to using uh, Linux distros and stuff like that, and we know our way around it, so it doesn't happen that much.
Yeah. So the people who work for your work with you, they were. Did you convert them into using FOSS tools, or they were actually from the soul back?
No, I don't force anybody to use FOSS. Initially, in my studio, there are three people. Two of them are my colleagues and friends. Initially, one of them was using Mac, and it was a 2013 or 2000, yeah, 2013 a Mac. So he had some problem, and with his Mac, because you can't upgrade to latest OS with the older models. So he was stuck using older Firefox, older software. Everything was old in his, and he couldn't afford new Mac. So we suggested him to try this, and he saw us using, like, both of us were using FOSS. So he saw that there is no problem. So later on, he also switched to free software. So initially he got some problem, but we were there to help him. So yeah. Fortunately, everybody is using free software, but we don't force anybody. Like, if I want to collaborate with the other uh, other than these two guys, I don't force them to use free software. I suggest them. I tell them that I'm using free software and I won't be using any proprietary software. They are okay with it, and I don't we like, from the past 5 to 6 years that I'm working, I didn't have any problem collaborating with anyone who is not using free software, because they can open the file that I send them, and I can open the file that they send them. There are some limitations, but those can be worked around, so that's not a problem.
There's an actual, stigma around using design tools that are forced in the industry. And people usually tend to think that you need Adobe Suite, you need these tools to actually survive in the industry. Do you think that is true?
uh, if you it's not like it is needed, like it is mandatory to use Adobe, because from whatever experience I have working as a freelancer or in a company from 2012, uh, i I didn't find any client that has said that you do this in Photoshop. He just wants the output, because they just want to make sure that everything that you give to them is top quality, and like, uh, if they get what they want, they won't be asking you which software you are using, because uh, ultimately what matters to them is the output. So how you did it by hand, or you did it by photographing anything, like, uh, it doesn't matter to them. So software is the last thing that the clients ask. However, if people want to join some company, some big company, and that company has some policy about the software uh, that they are going to allow in their premises, then you need to learn proprietary software. Uh, for Fortunately for us, it's not a problem, because wherever I work, they allowed me to bring my own machine, so that I can use my own software. And uh, later on, I had done freelancing. So in freelancing, there is no problem of your software and stuff. Then the studio is also like ours, so we decide what software we use. But even if we want to collaborate with some corporate, we don't get any problem. They don't mandate us like what software we use or whatever. And if we send them some file that is not like that is not possible, suppose we have to send them a file that is not possible to give them in proprietary format, we send them the original file, and we suggest them that you can open this format in this software, and this software is free, you don't have to pay for it to open this file. So most of the time, with some help, clients are okay with installing that free software and they open it. But it is very rare, because most of the time clients want the static image, JPG, PNG, TIFF or something. They don't want your source file, because they won't be doing any work on it. You are going to do the work, so it's not a problem actually. So if you want to join a company, and if your dream goal is to join some company, then you have to learn whatever they mandate. But if you are going to do some job as an artist, if your target is to be an artist, so no, Adobe is not a requirement. You can do artwork, or you can do design, you can do UI UX, anything on your own. You can learn things on your own without buying Adobe, without subscribing to Adobe or any software. Yeah. Later on, you can whatever knowledge you get, you can just when you go to work. Suppose you learn to design, you learn to do artwork in free software. Then you go to work somewhere. It might take you 1 month or 2 months to get accustomed, but it is similar. So you can make the switch to proprietary also later on. It's like how I made the switch to free software. You can make the switch to proprietary too, if your work needs it. So it's not like uh, uh, you can't be a designer without Adobe or something like that. It's a myth.
There's also even right now the free software movement is mostly like focused around tech communities and technical people. Do you think artists and general public should actually care about it as much as we do?
Unfortunately, not many artists care about anything. They just want to do their artwork. So yeah, some of them. It's ironic because artists are one of the people who should be at the forefront of any revolution, or at the forefront of any what do you say, any change in the society. But right now, it's like just most of them are just going to learn whatever the majority of people demand. And because the goal is to get the job, not the goal is not to adhere to any philosophy or anything. So it's slowly changing. I see more and more people using free software, not completely, but more and more people are using Blender, more and more people are using Krita, more and more artists are using Inkscape. So it's not that they are completely switching to free software, but slowly the change is happening. So we need to be patient about it. And another thing is that uh, if you force something, like say if you evangelize, and if you go give the message forcefully to the artists. Artists are the kind that they don't listen to you. Like if you say no, you have to do this, then they say, "Oh, what is wrong with what I'm doing right now? I won't listen to you." It has to come from within, so it will take time. But yeah, ultimately, like Blender is there right now. It's almost industry standard right now. So it will happen, but it takes time. So yeah, I'm hopeful about it. So let's see.
Now, can you talk about the whole kind of industry right now? Like maybe a bit in detail how you were introduced to it and how you actually survived in it and all.
Yeah, when I passed out, it was 2008, 2009, and it was a time of recession. So at that time, the stock market was crashing, and there was no job in the market. And what we did, even the college placement was not that much helpful for us. So what we did is that we went to every job site, and we just clicked the apply button, and whatever chance we got, we jumped in. But during that time, I got work in a web design agency. So from there, I learned about HTML and all these technical stuff. Slowly, I got into the uh, coding side of the design thing, and it was great experience. Then I went to a comic startup, and like then from there I did freelance stuff. So it was a bit hard to get into the industry because it was not a good time to pass out at that time. But right now it is, uh, yeah, I can't say it is good right now because we are going through a economic crisis. But uh, there won't be any less demand for artists in the industry, I think, because you if you have a product, you need to do some advertising for it, and if there is advertising, that people need designers to create advertising. So it won't be obsolete anytime soon unless we see AI powered artwork creating software. So yeah, I think it is good time to sharpen your skills and to get a lot of SI like projects in your portfolio and showcase it on your website. Then you get the chance, like if your work is good, you get the chance uh, quite well. So yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the major players in this design industry? This is an industry not a lot of people have a lot of idea about. So, could you just talk about it?
Major players, there are a lot of ad agencies which are actually multinational monopolies. Actually, there are four ad agencies like the parent companies, and all other companies are the sister, like holding companies of this. So there is no, if you switch your job from one company to other, it is just going to be you're going to work for any of those four companies at the top. So most of the people switch to freelancing, and each artist has their own style and own signature of doing things. So it's there are lots of Indian artists also. You can check out sites like Behance. It's an Adobe site, but you can browse it actually, and you can check out their works. A lot of newcomers are also very good because they have an early exposure to computer and stuff like that. Their artwork is really good, and the old people like us are going slowly becoming obsolete. But it's a thriving industry, and there are uh, lots of opportunities in the cities. So you can go to Bangalore or Mumbai, Hyderabad. Slowly, some people are starting agencies in rural areas also, like Goa. uh, yeah, so and due to work becoming more and more, like you can do this stuff remotely. So place like your location does not matter right now, but it helps if you're in city. There are some big artists as well, but they are slowly moving towards freelance and doing personal stuff, not into advertising. So you have a lot of scope here. So like yeah, you can get started and make a foothold in the industry relatively easily. Like it's not that hard. If your work is good, you'll get good work. That's it.
So, so what are the different like other than advertising for people with a creative eye? What are all the different fields they can get into?
Yeah, uh, if you are an illustrator or designer, if you are a designer, the current trend is UI UX. UI and UX are two different things. uh, UI is just designing what you see on the screen, or what you use. UX is actually doing research and giving solution to a problem. uh, then there magazines and like the old stuff, magazine, newspaper, those are there, but they are slowly becoming obsolete to digital mediums. Then there is, if you are doing animation and stuff like that, I would suggest not working for Indian animation studios, because they don't pay you well. But if you are really into it, then there are lots of opportunities in the educational sides. Like you can do educational videos and stuff like that, and educational content. Then uh, if you're into doing only illustration, you can look into publications. Newspapers need those illustrations and stuff like that. There are editorial illustration, book covers. uh, the sky is the limit. Like you can do your own thing. You can make merchandises, t-shirt design, mugs, or mouse pads, anything. You can put your design on that. You can sell it yourself. It is not that hard to set up your own store also right now. So like it depends on what you want to focus. Because if you want to go into advertising, then you have to do your marketing and stuff like that. If you want to do your own stuff, then it's like being like you own your business, and you have to do research and stuff like that. It depends on what you want to focus. So you can also do many of the artists are doing the Patreon thing. It's also not open source thing, so you can use Libra Pay. That is the alternative for Patreon. They have their audience, and the audience pays them directly. It's like patrons for the like in olden days, there used to be patrons for artists. So you do some stuff, maybe wallpapers or comics or anything, and your audience directly pays you. So that is also a path you can choose. But it depends on what you enjoy the most. If you enjoy doing UI UX, which is a bit towards the technical side, so you can choose that path. If you are more towards drawing and telling a story, you can do storyboards for directors for the films. You can sit with the director, and you can he explains to you that what kind of a scene he needs, and then you can create the and like see through his mind, and draw what he wants to, that so that he can explain to the actors or whoever he wants to explain. So storyboarding is also there. Lots of career paths are there. It's not like you are limited to only design and stuff like that. It depends on what you choose. You can also there are actually you can also do medical stuff also. If you if you want to go into medical illustration thing, you can choose to work with medical doctors and stuff like that. Like right now we have the epidemic. So if you want to what do you say, if you want to uh, provide knowledge about corona or something like that, you can work with doctors. uh, there is medical illustration uh, path too. Yeah.
So, to anyone who is aspiring to get into this industry, what are the things that they can do right now as students to actually build their portfolio and have a good reputation?
So first I would suggest finding out what you love to do. Because if you want to make comics, then you have to build your portfolio around that path. So at an early stage, before finding your style or before finding anything like the way you draw, the medium, the software, anything, first sit down and think about like think about the path you want to choose. If you want to go into uh, designing and not drawing or stuff like that, you have to build a portfolio with that goal, like with that career path in your mind. So maybe the quantity is also not important. If you have four good pieces of artwork or pieces of design in your portfolio, then that would work. So first try to decide which way you want to go. If you want to go in storyboarding, then take some movies or something like that and draw the storyboards. Like script, you can get the script on the internet, and try to draw the storyboard and keep that in your portfolio. send that portfolio to various directors or various media houses, tell them that you are available and you want to work with them. So if you want to do some editorial illustrations, uh, um, do some like take some editorials, do some illustration for them, and send those illustrations to the author of that editorial. Get in contact with them. Contacts, building contacts is also really important. uh, then put your artwork on the web, uh, get more eyeballs, get more feedback. The more you expose yourself, like more you show your artwork to everyone, the more feedback you will get, the more what do you say, the more improvement you make in your artwork. So at an early stage, I would say build a portfolio, then build some contacts, uh, go meet everyone, try online meetups, go to your like every city has its group of artists and stuff like that. They do urban sketching. Go meet people. There you get to know other people, what they are doing, what are their ideas. If you know common, like if you know 2 3 people who are into the same thing that you are, then you get the idea what they are trying, so you can try that too. So basically, two things: build a portfolio, try to build your contacts, show your artwork to many people. Yeah. So by the time you pass out, you have some 2 3 people who you can ask for work, and you can get into the industry, even if it is freelance. So
So next is a two-part question.
yeah.
So does the field in which you're doing your bachelor's matter? So like some people are doing engineering, some people might be doing something else. So what if they want to get into design after their degree?
Um, Going into art school helps a bit, but they did you're basically any school in India is self learning. It's not that you get to learn anything there. The curriculum is outdated, so but having an art degree uh, gives you a perspective early on. Like you get to know the basic concepts uh, really early in your like when you're starting out. You don't need to learn anything from the basics. Comparing, like suppose say you are an engineer and you are going into animation, so first to make the switch you have to relearn everything, and you need to spend some time on your basic. That thing is not like that's not the case for the people who have done art degree. But it's not really important. If you are really passionate about it, you can make the switch. Many of my friends, even the guys who I work with, both of them are not from art background, so it doesn't really matter. What matters is that how serious are you in making the career switch. If you do it half-heartedly, then it won't be long that you feel bored, or you feel that it's not working. So you have to seriously think, and you have to give more time to build a portfolio and such that nobody asks you which degree you have, because client or any other person only look at your work. If your work is good quality, then nobody asks you that you have you done any art degree or something. In my entire career, nobody has ever seen my degree. It's in my drawer literally. Even I have not seen it. So it doesn't really matter.
So again, now coming to the whole art degree thing, does the institution that you get into to get your art degree matter? There are a lot of entrance exams to it. There is no centralized entrance exam like in engineering or anything. And all these colleges are distributed in various parts of the country. It's not that common as engineering college. So does the actual place where you get the degree matter?
uh, Even that doesn't matter right now, because earlier it used there used to be few colleges. Right now I think more and more art colleges are they're setting up. um, Ultimately, is your portfolio, so it doesn't matter which college you went. um, it, also it depends on the area that you're in, because if you go to Mumbai, then many of the top talented people will be eyeing for that place in that college. So you get to spend time with those people, maybe the best of surrounding area. Then your mentality is like uh, uh, your your um, the barometer for your work uh, among your peers get set is set high early on, so that you try to compete with them and your artwork improves. So it depends a bit. But if you right now, what you can do is check out internet and see everyone's artwork. It's not like in olden days that we didn't get to see anyone's artwork outside of our college. So it doesn't matter right now. You can take inspiration from a lot of artists on internet and try to match their caliber, and try to improve yourself to the level of their expertise. So it doesn't matter right now, because world is small in digital. So uh, wherever you get a chance, like if you're getting admission in some small college, it doesn't matter right now. You get into it, at least you get the basics, and then try to improve yourself from everything you see around the internet and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the best things about FOSS projects is there's a good community around it always, and I know that you are very much in touch with the crypto community. We actually attend the crypto conference, I think almost every year. How is the community around crypto? Is it how is the artists around crypto? How does that community help or inspire you?
um, Actually, it's really a great community, and I'm really grateful for them, because most of the people on it's not like everyone is developer in there, because most of the developers are artists themselves. So your wavelength matches. Even if you have a discussion, the wavelength matches with them. So uh, whenever there is a new feature, everyone sits and discusses, and they don't see the problem with a developer point of view. They see it with from the artist point of view. And more people are starting to use Krita, and we see a lot of people coming on IRC, artists coming on IRC and asking question. We also have our own forum that I and one more person has set up. uh, uh, we see a lot of artwork from users, and most of the artworks are really mind blowing. So you get to see what Krita is capable of, and what you can actually do with Krita. So the developers are really like welcoming to new people. They listen to you, and nobody is like not welcoming, or nobody is shutting you down. Your suggestions are really taken into account when anything is done. So I'm really fortunate to be a part of this community, and uh, thinking about it, it's not that hard to get into it. If you just come and say hi on the IRC, like everybody will be there, and they'll welcome you with open arms. If you have anything to contribute, then more like they will cheer you up, and they will say welcome, and they will get you on board with everything. So I really hope that other creative software also has had this kind of community. Even Blender has this kind of community. Inkscape also, to a certain extent, I see collaboration between artists and developers. So we are getting there, but yeah, it needs a bit more push towards it. Another thing is that it broadens your mind. Like earlier, I used to be that okay, this feature is like this, and I can use it like this. So, but after interacting with the community, I get to know the developer side also, that why this is slow, why this is, why this behaves the way it behaves, how can I like do it with a workaround or stuff like that. So yeah, it helps a bit to see different point of view, and uh, yeah, it also helps in building a collaborative spirit in you. So yeah.
Could you say a few things about Criticon? We are curious what happens there. What is it like?
It's a yearly sprint actually, where developers and artists get together, and developers just speak to artists, and they say artists to use Krita, and whatever like if they have any complaint while working, they take notes. They just observe us while drawing. If they find anything that even if you're drawing, if you're doing something, if you're using something, sometimes even you don't know that you're doing it wrong. You may be accustomed to doing things certain way, but the developers see you working and they take note of it. Then they make point of any improvement they can make in the workflow. Uh, there are a lot of discussions, and actually the sprint is actually to get people meet face to face. It's not about doing a feature in this amount of time. It's not like the coding sprint. Yeah, it's really about getting to know the developers and artists, and it's about socializing with each other, so that next time you speak on the IRC, they also know your mentality and know your way of talking and stuff like that. So it brings people. It is there to bring the two groups together. It's not like we are there to solve this many amount of bugs during the sprint or something like that. So yeah, and sometimes it helps talking face to face. If you have some suggestions or if you have some ideas, it helps debating, and if it helps talking face to face. So the experience was really great. The first time I went, and it was nice to see faces of people who with whom I was chatting on IRC and stuff like that, and they are really nice people. Uh, the environment also was very nice. Uh, we had lots of fun, and yeah, basically, and past year there was more people uh, 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 attending the sprint than the previous year. So it's growing day by day. So earlier it was sprint, then it became a convention, and then maybe we had one planned for this year too, but unfortunately it got cancelled. Maybe next year we will have something. uh, it's also a way to get new artists into the core group of people who develop Krita. Suppose there is an artist who wish to attend the sprint and he is new to everything, and he's new to the free software philosophy, and he can come there and he gets to know what is free software, how things work. He gets to familiarize with the community and stuff like that, so that he can be a permanent member of the community. So that helps a lot actually. Yeah.
Can you maybe in a few words explain to us the workflow that goes through in your studio, the machines you use, the hardware, I mean the hardware, and the software, the operating systems, any pointers you would like to give to new designers?
uh, uh, in terms of hardware, we have Wacom and Huion. I don't know how to spell it, but it's Huion, I guess. Huion tablets. Tablets are graphic tablets like these. Uh, you draw on it with a pen, so it gets registered on the screen. Uh, then we have a fairly decent monitor also, which shows good color, and I have a BenQ monitor. In terms of absolute hardware RAM is 32 GB, and normal some 8. I guess the processor is 5 to 10 years old. Intel processor. Yeah, uh, OS we are using. Two of the guys are using Ubuntu actually, and I'm using Arch Linux. So yeah, yeah, and the softwares are from repository. So I build some software like Krita and Inkscape to use the new features before they are released. I try to draw using the build from the master, so that I can give feedback to the developers. Uh, Other guys don't use like cutting edge software. They use Ubuntu. They are happy with Ubuntu and they use it. And in terms of workflow, when the client gives some brief, they mail the inquiry, we ask for clarification, we ask for the detailed brief. When do you want the what is the deadline, when do you want in what format you want the files and stuff like that. Then we sit down and do some sketches on pen and paper or whatever, and then we'll send the sketches. Client gives the feedback, we draw the final, like the first cut of artwork then is sent to the client. Again there is 2 rounds of feedbacks, and then we send the final file to them. Yeah. If the artwork needs any kind of new new experiments. Suppose the client wants something to be shot made with clay, so we make something with clay and then we shoot it ourselves. We do the post processing, uh, and then like we experiment with the style a lot. So yeah, there are lots of software. We try to search for software that can help us. For example, one of the client wanted his card to be. He wanted the card to have a pattern which looked like colors, like the oil paint dropped over water when it spreads over water, and everything is not mixed but wavy kind of a thing. So we tried to do it traditionally. We dropped water, like oil on water, but it went horribly bad. So we tried to find some software that can mimic, or that can emulate the flow of water or like that. But even that was not good enough. Later on, we found that there is one plugin called Gmic or Gmic or GMIC, whatever you call it. It had some filters, so it was just easy thing. You input some blobs of color and just click it there, and it was there. So yeah, we experiment a lot. There are lots of open source software that we don't know of. For example, there is one software called Entangle, which is used to make stop motion animation with clay and stuff like that. We use that to make artwork made out of paper, like colored paper cut into small shapes, arranged to make a illustration. Then uh, we used Entangle to shoot it. Then the next sequence of images, basically it helps you to view the previous and next frame together with the current frame, so you can move the pieces a bit and then take a shot, then move it, then take a shot. Basically as how stop motion is done. So uh, so I would like to say it's not that we are limited to Inkscape or Game or Krita. We try to find anything that would help us to achieve what we want, even if it is a command line or anything. We try to do it, and we our focus is to get the output how the client wants it, uh, not the software or the way how it is achieved. So yeah, if you search for it, you can do anything you want. There are lots of software. There is no limit to software to achieve what you want. Yeah.
So now this question is a bit different. So to give us some context, after the whole, if you take the history of India and our civilization, after the whole colonialization and that whole thing went away, we started to think a bit more, practical. I don't know if that's the right word in terms of jobs. Our attitude towards artists, art, and profession actually changed. We actually started preferring, professions that had a clear cut job at the end of it. And this actually changed the way, art might be perceived in our country. And artists used to be people who are very much, like celebrated and respected in our country. And sometimes we feel that when we see things online and stuff, that that is not the same right now. What do you think about this whole social situation that we are in right now? Do you think this is right, or is it just something what we see online, and that's what actually what is in real life?
What you see online is very different from what is it in real life actually. uh, People tend to think that being an artist is like, if you're an artist, then if anybody asks you what do you do, if you say that you're an artist, people will say that, okay, what do you do, what do you actually do for living? So that's the question they ask most of the time. They think that engineering and being a doctor and being a CA or anything is uh, actual, like that is the main profession, and everything else is like sidelined or hobby thing. But it's not the case. If you inspect closely in the society, there are many artists and many people don't even know they consume art form. Uh, Take for example this lockdown period. If there were no books, if there were no games, if there were no songs, if there were no painting or anything, novels, how would you spend time in, like, in your home alone during this time? So it's not that society is filled with only engineers and doctors. There are many artists. It's just that majority of the society doesn't recognize them. Even that is a bit far-fetched thought actually, because many people consume media, many people consume creative artworks without even knowing that they are consuming it. If you see, even filmmaking is an art, right? So you binge watch various series and stuff like that, but you don't think about filmmaking as an art when you're watching something. So it's not like there are less people taking creative side in society. It's just that people who are on the other side think that they are the only people in the society. The profession, like, uh, there is only one few fields of profession that is really that really matters. Some of them discourage their children to take the creative side of career path. That is unfortunate, but if a person is really inclined to do career in creative side, he will, at some point of time, he will make the switch and come to the creative side. Many of my friends have done engineering. Some have had a good job in big corporates, but later on they chose to become photographer, wildlife photographer. Some chose to become illustrators. Some chose to become writers who write graphic novels. So it's not like we are having less people taking the creative field. It's just that don't like people don't get to know the amount of people choosing the creative field. It's not unpopular, or it's not like we have less and less people taking art field, etc.
Yes. There's a question from our community. So one person kind of asked whether you do storyboarding for films. Or have you done it? And if you have, is there a good software that you can suggest for that?
Yeah, I have done some storyboard for ad films, and few storyboards for films also. Earlier, I used to draw it by hand. I used to go and sit with the director at his home and draw everything when he was explaining to me, and I used to just submit that then and there because he is there and he gives feedback, and I can make the changes there itself, and I can give it to him. Uh, if I have to work on in a software, there is MyPaint. MyPaint is really good because you can have the storyboard frames. It has infinite canvas, so you can have the frames tiled all over the canvas, and you can just draw without there is no limit to the page, and you can just go on drawing and drawing, and then save your artwork, and you can put the dialogue and caption with using any maybe Inkscape or something like that. So MyPaint is really a good software for storyboard. Uh, it, mm, it has uh, it feels natural to draw in it, more than Krita or GIMP. Like while drawing storyboard, it feels natural to use MyPaint. So you can use MyPaint for storyboard if you want free software. There, there are of course proprietary softwares as well, but MyPaint is really useful because it doesn't get in your way. You get the blocks of frames tiled all over your canvas. You just draw on the frames and you just save it.
So another question that really comes up at this point is how long did it take for you to actually get successful and feel like, oh, I can make a living out of this. I can really do this full, like rest of my life and be okay with it.
Um, I got a job when fairly quickly when I passed out. Like I said, I just pressed apply all over the internet. So I took whatever job I had. I didn't choose it because it was not time to be choosy, not a time to be choosy in the field. So later on, when I got to know the industry, it took me around maybe 2 or 3 years to get to know how everything works, how is the industry, um, what kind of a language is used in the industry. To get the practical knowledge, it took me 1 or 2 years. So after I built my contacts working in agencies and stuff like that, then I slowly started to do freelancing. Maybe a Sunday or Saturday, I took some work, and then slowly, at one point of time, I felt that more and more opportunities are coming from like freelancing, and I can leave my job and I can focus on being my own boss. So at that point of time, it was actually if I passed out in 2009, it was in 2012 that I started to freelance. Yeah, so it took 3 years maybe to get to know the industry and make a foothold and develop contacts. So until then, I was working as a designer, as a like normal artist. So yeah, the
Another
important
question.
point is you have to make more contacts. If people don't know that you are freelancing or you can do this work, see for example. There is a client and he wants some t-shirt design, so he doesn't know who does t-shirt design. So if you at any point of time have met him or uh, have or anybody who knows him, you have met that person, then you get to like he knows that you can do this stuff. So it's basically getting to know more people, and when they want something from you, they'll contact you. So it's basically if you want to do freelance, then you have to build your contacts. If you don't want to go into freelance, then you're like you can do a job like in any ad agency and keep on doing it. Yeah. There is no what do you say no there are many opportunities in ad agencies also. So you can be a normal designer and you get your appraiser and you get to choose a slow and normal steady path. Freelancing is a bit a risky business, so you have to be sure that you will be getting this much amount of money each month. So you have to build the contacts, and it happens slowly, and you have to have a savings of maybe 1 year or 6 months. You have to keep that much savings before jumping into freelancing or jumping into starting your own studio, so that even if it fails, you have some of the saving to like to sustain yourself. Then you can maybe go back to doing job. It's just trial and error.
Quickly,
Yeah.
we are out of time actually, but like quickly, could you actually list or like tell? There are a lot of kids who are watching this who might want to be designers, and they actually would like to get in touch with actually designers in their locality and stuff. So, what is a good way to actually find the artistic people around you, like the communities and stuff?
Um, like I said, you can. A lot of designers are, lot of artists are on Instagram lately. That is the trend right now. So even if you don't want to make an account, you can browse it. Just going to the site. There are a lot of artists on Behance. You can search for people around you. You can put the geographical location, and you can see who are the artists around you. Then you can go to maybe there is one more site called Dribble that is
Mm.
focused on UI UX and web uh, web illustration, app illustration kind of a crowd. So there are lots of Indian artists over there too. Most of the artists have their own website. Most of the professional artists will have their own website. That is the first thing that they will do. Most probably you will get their email address from there, so you can send them a mail. Don't be too like, if they don't reply, don't be too what do you say, pesky about it. Don't repeatedly mail them or something like that. If they want to reply you, they'll reply you, but someone will reply. There are lots of people on Twitter, Mastodon. Lately, there are lots of Indian artists on Mastodon. It's a free alternative to Twitter. You should really try it. So you can get in contact with people there. Most of the artists will be forthcoming and will suggest you, will give you advice. I didn't find anybody who was really rude or anything. So yeah, you can get in contact with them. Even on YouTube, I see a lot of artists putting out videos in vernacular language, so you can find them there as well. So yeah, there is no limit to communication um, at this age. So you just have to be confident, and when you ask them question, uh, you should learn how to ask question also. So yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for spending time with us. It has been a great pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, it's
On behalf of everyone here, on behalf of everyone here at Student Developer Society and our community, I'd like to thank you. So yes,
thank you very much for having me. So it's a great pleasure. It's a great change of my routine also. It's a bit boring during this lockdown, so I had some free time.
all right. So
So
thanks everyone for joining us. Until next session, we would like to say that we'll bring more people. We'll like to get involved with more people who are into FOSS. So until next time, this is Abraham Raji signing off. Thank you.